Hey tubers, so we've got a Champion Power Equipment generator here today. This is what we're working on. It's been sitting for about 2 years. Already got a new battery in it. Haven't really played with it at all yet. 6,000 watt running, 7,000 watt peak. So we're gonna go ahead and try to start it up here. I'll show you guys how to diagnose it. There's some diagnostics on it. Show you how to see and figure out what's going on with it. This sat for about 2 years in a storage unit. I had mice in it. You can see some holes in here that have been chewed on, which isn't a good thing. So we're going to have to test and make sure, you know, it's getting ignition or that it's getting fuel, see exactly what's wrong with it, figure out why it's not starting. Customer brought it, or I picked it up from a customer, said it sat for about 2 years, hasn't run in those 2 years, and he's just looking to get it running so he can use it for you know, emergencies. When emergencies arrive, it's a little dirty, that's no problem. Picked it up when it was running, and then I pulled it back here while it was still raining and stuff. I think I said running instead of raining. Oh well. But we're going to turn the fuel on here. Fuel is on now. Going to go ahead and it's already on full choke. I'm going to go ahead and crank it over, see if anything happens, see if it fires. He said he put new fuel in it. It does have new fuel, but if it's sat for 2 years, that carburetor is probably pretty bad. But I'll show you how to figure out exactly what's going on. So let's go ahead and crank it here. All right, so no fire. So now we tend to wonder, okay, is it ignition or is it fuel? Is it getting fuel? Is it getting ignition? What's the problem? Or is it both? You know, it could be either or. I'm gonna go ahead and take the air cleaner off here. Air cleaner is like brand new. It's not oiled. These air filters, these foam air filters, have to be oiled for them to catch anything. When they usually come from the factory, they're lightly oiled, but they need to be oiled more. Actually, the air filter smells like really, really old fuel. So let's go ahead and give it a shot of carburetor cleaner. I don't like to use starting fluid because it's pretty potent stuff. This stuff works just as good, and it doesn't, you know, risk blowing up the motor. I've seen people throw rings, or not throw, you know, crack rings and throw rods. Go ahead and do 2 spurts in there. See if she'll start, and if she does, I'm going to see if I can keep it running with carb cleaner. So obviously, when you give it some carb cleaner, it starts. Won't stay running, but it will start. So what we're going to go ahead and do, take this air filter off and get into that carburetor. Alrighty, so we're here to the carburetor now. I'm going to go ahead and take this off real carefully. Shut the fuel off. Take the fuel line off. I will be flushing the tank out on this to make sure it's got fresh fuel. I'll be taking all this fuel out, filling it with 91, giving it a good workout. I'll cover that later on. And then I'll give it a good workout. Then I will be filling it up to the brim with Startron and ethanol-free fuel, so it can then sit a while once again. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off carefully. Yep, you're just making sure you're being able to see what I'm doing. You turn this, take the big arm out first, carefully without stretching that spring, and then you pull that spring away. Now the throttle assembly is off. Now we've got to get a Phillips head screwdriver on this one and take these two screws out. Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead. Let's make sure you're in the frame here. Yep. Well, my big hand's in the way a lot. I do apologize. Sometimes these guys are fun to get off. Can't get it. See if we can get this other one. Got that one. See if I can get the other one again. I got it. That guy pulls out of there. As you can see, it's got some grime on it. So I bet you the inside of this carburetor is about the same. I believe that's a size 14. We'll grab one of those. Let's see. Size 14. Fits it nice and snug. 14 millimeter. I'm going to pull these guys off real quick so I don't ruin them. I think I'll leave that guy on there. Sometimes you can pull them off, sometimes you can't. You just got to be careful with them, because if you crack them or rip them or anything like that, it's fun to find replacements. Especially for these off-brand generators. Sometimes you can cross-match them, especially with the carburetors. Sometimes you can find Honda parts that'll cross-match. Sometimes not. They're Honda clones. Sometimes they're Briggs & Stratton clones. Yeah, it's pretty dirty. Set that up on top. Let me get this bowl off here. Pretty nasty. And as you can see, that float is stuck. I'm going to see if I can push it open. No, it is pretty stuck. This float being plastic, I don't want to push too hard on it. And that's one of the reasons why it wasn't running. So that float's actually stuck closed, which happens quite a lot. Sometimes you can fix them by just tapping the side of the carburetor with a screwdriver or something like that, or something heavy. Just tapping it 2 or 3 times. If it doesn't work, don't keep hitting it, because sometimes they are pretty well glued in there. I grab a pair of pliers. I have a pair of pliers. I've got a pair of pliers, but I don't know if I can find them. That's always the fun part. Okay, one thing you have to be careful of on these carburetors is there's a rubber O-ring. It's actually stuck on the bowl right now, which I'm totally okay with. It's out of the way. Don't want to spray those with carb cleaner. And then on the needle itself, there's either going to be a rubber seat or a rubber end to the needle. You do not want to get, especially on that, you do not want to get any carburetor cleaner on it at all, because it swells up the rubber and it plugs it off. Let's see if I can remove this float so I don't ruin it. Keep you in the frame here. Okay, so that float doesn't want to come off, but I at least unbolted it so it can move freely, because I don't want to pull on it and have it snap it. at that joint right there. So we're gonna go ahead and try to continue on. See if we can get this off. Just gonna pull on it real hard here, and I got it. And as you can see, I'm gonna set that to the side. Carburetor itself. This does have a rubber piece on it. Any solvent usually eats rubber or makes it swell, which is a part of eating it. Take this needle off. It's got a spring, which these springs are all sorts of fun. Spring off. As you can see, that needle is really nasty. I don't think that camera's going to focus on its own. There we go. Really nasty. Definitely needs to be cleaned. But we're not going to use carb cleaner on this. Going to use some steel wool. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go grab. Let's see. I may have my steel wool with me actually. Let me look. Let's see. I'll just keep it in my bag with me. There's a piece of steel wool. There's a spider in my tool bag. Daddy long leg. Enjoying my tools. Alright, so I don't see my steel wool here. I've got a little bit. Let's see if I can do what I need to with this little bit that I've got. Might still need to go get some more. Make sure this thing's still recording. Still is. Good. There's that needle. So that rubber on here is right there. It's on the end. And you can put steel wool on rubber. It's not going to hurt it. It's actually still got the anti-seize on that rubber, which is good. So I don't want to rub that off. Now what I am going to do though is I'm going to spray the steel wool with a little bit of carb cleaner. It's going to help loosen it up because we can control where the carb cleaner is actually going. As you can see, it came right off there. Making sure not to get it on the rubber. Just being really careful with it here. Because it is not, on the gasket on the bowl, that rubber gasket, I always said don't get it on there. That one's a little more forgiving. You can get that rubber to shrink down sometimes if you get it hot in front of like a space heater. Do not use any flame whatsoever. That's way too hot. It burns them up. But these needles are absolutely unforgiving. If you get any carb cleaner on them, they destroy that rubber. My kitty's here to say hello. She's wanting me to pet her, but I'm currently cleaning a needle right now, so someone's just gonna have to wait. Alright, so I'm gonna grab another piece of steel wool and clean this rubber off. I actually sit it on my lap and clean it. So as you can see, it's definitely a whole lot cleaner, even though it's not really focused. It's definitely a whole lot cleaner. I'm going to continue cleaning that. I'll give it a second. I'll just leave it alone. I'm going to see this has a rubber seal on it as well. I'm going to take that off before I clean it. Because rubber seals, I'm sorry if the camera's getting bounced. Somebody's 11 from the camera now. But I don't want to get carb cleaner on that either, so I'm going to spray this down. When it comes to the insides of carburetors, I always say if it's not shiny, it's not clean. Or relatively shiny at least. Sometimes you can't get them totally shiny, but so just one pass on that one. It's a whole lot better. Then I could go ahead and continue cleaning this carburetor out. Make sure these jets are open. There's like 2 little holes, and there's a hole in the top. Gotta make sure I spray carb cleaner through all those passages, make sure everything's clean. I'm gonna clean out the bottom of this bowl, which I have the float rod sitting in. Clean that out. I'm gonna clean the bottom of the carburetor off, especially up in there where that needle was stuck. That'll definitely be bad. And then there, in this carburetor, there is a jet. There's a jet up inside there that I can take out with a screwdriver. I'll need to take that out as well and clean it. And I'll show you guys that here in a second. Alrighty, this part right here is called the jet. It goes down in the center of the carburetor. Comes out with a screwdriver. So you can see through it. Maybe you can see that. Yeah, you can see it. You can see through it, so that means it was pretty clean. It wasn't too bad. Still gonna clean it out anyways. How you clean these guys out? The easiest way, spray them, see if you can get them to spray through with carb cleaner, which it does. And then I'll take a little piece of steel wool. Here's a big piece. Pull off a piece. You kind of just spin it in your fingers. And then you jam it into one side of the jet. I usually hold the steel wool with my left hand and spin the jet on my right because it's easier that way. Because you can keep the steel wool pretty stationary. You spray it, there you spin it. I'll spray it every so often. Keep the steel wool inside there wet with carb cleaner, helps it clean it out. Then when I feel almost no resistance, I pull it out. It's pretty clean. I'm gonna do the other side, which really isn't. There's really not too much you can push into there. Sometimes these jets are super fine though, to the point where you cannot get them to clean themselves out. And that's where you actually need like a sewing needle, like a really fine one. Safety pins don't always work because they're usually still pretty thick, even the small safety pins. That's where you need like a sewing needle or a sewing pin, or one of those tools that you are supposed to use to clean out jets, which I have one of those. Almost never use it because I have better luck with sewing needles and stuff like that. Continue cleaning this off here, clean the outside. Even though it'll run the way it is, with the outside being dirty, I still like to clean the outside, make sure it's clean. Spray it off one last time. Make sure there's no little pieces of steel wool. And that's clean. So to put it back in, wherever the carburetor went. Where did I put the carburetor? I've lost it. There it is. Oh, it's right sitting by the piece of steel wool I was using. I cleaned that guy out. Kind of did the same thing, except I used a pair of needle nose pliers and jammed a piece of steel in there, kept it wet. See if I can get it to focus here. There we go. But just kept it wet. I'm going to go ahead and send that jet in there. Sometimes they're fun to get out because there's a larger thread and then there's the smaller thread that actually they work in. So you start them by actually backing them out, and you kind of feel it pop, and then you can start going in. So if you could try to go straight in, sometimes you can cross thread it and it really messes things up. Okay, it's at the bottom. I'll snug it. You snug it to the point where it's pretty good, but you don't want to snug it to the point because sometimes you can break those little wings off in there. where that slot is, and there's the pieces on either side. You can break one of those off sometimes. So that's pretty clean. Just make sure there's no pieces of steel wool. Looking down inside this one, make sure it's clean down in there. It is. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this needle just a little bit more. I'm not too terribly happy with it yet. I can still, it's like when I run my fingers on it, I still feel stickiness, which is that old fuel. So I'm gonna see if I can clean it off some more. As you can see, this guy's pretty clean now. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it back in now. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and start reassembling this carburetor now. Gonna do everything in reverse. I put this little spring on this, and then it sits like that, goes in. They're fun to deal with sometimes, because that spring's supposed to kind of lock itself in. Yeah, there we go. It works. We're going to drop it onto the carburetor here. I'm going to check for movement here after I put this rod back on the float. As you can see, that needle does move now. When you flop it up this way, that float does fall now, which is how it's supposed to be. We're going to go ahead and put the seal on. Let's see, it's getting a little cracked, which it's okay, as long as it doesn't leak. That's all that matters. Bottom of the bowl's nice and clean now. Now sometimes they have, there's a drain on this one. They have a certain way that they're supposed to sit. Carburetor sits like this on the generator. And I'm gonna make sure that's out like that so you can get to it from the outside. It's probably how it was sitting before. And then there's that seal. It goes on this bolt. It goes on the bottom side. Alright, then we're going to go snug this guy up and then put the anti-dieseling valve back in, which is that guy right there. That guy I still need to clean off a little bit, so I'm going to clean him off real quick too. And then we'll continue on. Cool. Another thing I need to cover on anti-dieseling valves, this piece right here, it actually gets pushed up by an actuator. And you got to make sure it can move freely. If it doesn't move, this can also make your engine not run. Like not run, period. Because what this piece does, I'm trying to get, there's some carb cleaner still stuck up inside there. What this piece does is it actually pushes that needle up towards the jet in the carburetor. And when it does that, it actually shuts off all fuel flow to the jet. So it gets no fuel and shuts the engine off. Now this is not how the engine shuts off, but if it were to diesel, if it's hot enough, it'll actually self-ignite the fuel. And if it did that, the engine wouldn't shut off. This shuts the fuel off, which also helps with not flooding the engine out when you shut your engine off at full speed. Which does happen. If you don't have an anti-dieseling valve, you're supposed to idle your engine down and then shut it off. Unless you're on a generator, then I wouldn't do that. But going to go ahead and put the seal back on that guy and get it back into the carburetor. Get the carburetor back in here and get it fully assembled, and then we'll see if she cranks. Alright, this is day 2. I've got all the carb cleaner and carb cleaned out on it and everything. Have not tried to start it yet. Got the gas tank all flushed out. I'm just going to get some fuel in it now. Make sure that's on. Yeah, it's on. Fuel. Looks like I'm getting a little low on fuel. Fill that tank up again. Sure that fuel is on. Yeah, it's on. Go ahead and choke it up, see if she starts. If she does, I'm going to let her run for a little while, so I'm going to shut the camera off. We'll go ahead and choke it up. Great. Alrighty tubers, well she's done. On these Champion generators, and I found it with every Champion I've worked on, they run lean. If I could rejet this, and I can, but I'm not going to, the customer doesn't want it done, I guess. I haven't really asked him yet, but it's an extra, you know, 15 bucks or whatever for me to get in there and get that done. I can still ask him, but what happens is these are set up more for like sea level, and they're meant to run really lean or whatever, however they're set up. And then you get them up here, I'm at about, I don't know, like 5,000 feet, and they just seem like they run lean. I'll give it a good run. I'll get another run before I hand it over to him, make sure everything's working good. That, and I need to go fill the tank up for him. But it's running pretty good. These Champions are okay generators. They're not my choice of generator, but yeah, definitely loud. I've got a Harbor Freight generator, the old blue ones, not the new red and black ones. I've got one of the old blue ones, which I guess the new red and black ones are actually a lot better, but that blue one's actually a lot quieter than this generator here. Same wattage too, 6,000 watts, 7,000 watt peak. So yeah, this is the model number right there. Alrighty, sorry about that. Sorry about the wind. It's kicked up the wind. I just went and got my other camera. You'll have to tell me if you like the audio and video quality better on this, or if the other one has better video and or quality, or audio quality. But like I was saying, there's the model number and everything for you guys. There's all the information on the top for this. Supposed to change the oil at least every 100 hours. Some maintenance info for you guys. But yep, it'll be going back now. Cool. See you later, tubers. Bye.